How do I 22F explain to my grandma 68F that I don't want to hear about my aunt 45F right now? It has been a constant theme in my life that my aunt is the biggest priority for my grandparents. They always favored her over my dad because she made something of herself, even though no one gave him the same opportunities or financial help that she got, and he still works in a very honest profession. I'm an only grandchild, which did get me a decent amount of attention. But when I was about 9, my aunt went wild. She divorced her rich husband, lost her job. She'd been a teacher but was fired for sleeping with a student. She taught middle school, and remarried to a serious creep while doing wild amounts of drugs. My grandparents in turn bought her a house and at this point have purchased 8 vehicles for her. The last 7 were sold for drugs because she proudly tells everyone grimace. I genuinely felt bad for her for a long time. But she robbed and left one of my friends for dead at one point, so I personally have no respect for her left. My grandma is a sweetheart and one of my best friends. She was even my maid of honor at my wedding. My husband, 28M, loved both of my grandparents. And with them getting older, we moved within walking distance to be around them. They are always busy doing stuff for my aunt, and lately we'd barely seen them. In August, my husband was driving to work and got into a terrible accident. He died instantly. I've definitely withdrawn into myself, but I try to have people around me a lot here. It's a 2-minute walk to my house from theirs. Every time my grandma drops in lately, she's constantly talking about my aunt. How she worries for her and how she's such a good kid, and she wishes she could protect her. Meanwhile, I'm literally holding my poor husband's ashes, trying to hold back tears so she can vent to me. I don't want to be ungrateful at all, but I'm incredibly depressed and I think my issues are a little more serious. Which I do talk to her, and she listens. But then she goes back to how my aunt is out every night and she can't understand. They pay every single bill for my aunt and give her anything she wants while I've been surviving on my parents' minuscule monetary help. They really don't have it. I'm not mad. And the last bit of money in my bank account until I can get the life insurance. I did ask for help from my grandparents, but they were stretched too thin and chose my aunt, which made my dad get so mad. But I understand. The other day she asked if I would want to sell my car to her so she could give it to my aunt. The last vehicle I have memories with my husband in, just to be sold off for drugs. I started crying and I know she didn't understand, but it just felt so terrible and inappropriate. What am I even supposed to do? I have a therapist, by the way. There's no need to suggest it. I don't expect my grandma to take on my issues, but I'm straight up depressed and I want to talk about other things. TLD, or I lost my husband in an accident 2 months ago. My grandma only wants to talk about my aunt and her problems, but I just do not have it in me to handle this right now. I still want to spend time with her, but she's obsessed with my aunt and solving every issue that comes up for her. Sounds like your grandparents are seriously delusional about their kid. I'm torn between respecting that you care for them and wondering how the hell you put up with these people. They play blatant favorites for your aunt over your dad and now excuse their favorites wildly inappropriate and hurtful behavior. And your grandma doesn't seem to give a fuck that you are grieving the death of a spouse. I hope you would not ever genuinely consider letting them buy your car or do anything for them at all when they do nothing for you. Also, I genuinely felt bad for her for a long time. But she robbed and left one of my friends for dead at one point, so I personally have no respect for her left. And was fired for sleeping with a student. She taught middle school. That second story is rape of a minor. How can your grandparents possibly support this person? This is insane. Edit. Realized I didn't actually make a recommendation. So here it is. Think seriously about whether they're worth having in your life. I am sorry for your loss. If your grandparents really wanted to help your aunt, they would put her in rehab. They are just enabling her drug addiction and are part of your aunt's problems. Anyhow, that's quite a list. Your aunt is a manipulative, abusive, drug user, pedophile, who robbed and nearly killed a friend, and takes advantage of your grandparents. The pedophile part is indefensible, as is robbing a friend, let alone nearly killing the friend. Write your grandma a letter. Go visit her. Hand it to her. Tell her to read it and leave immediately. In the letter, explain directly that from now on your aunt is a forbidden topic with you. You lost your husband and need your grandma's emotional support, but instead she ignores your hurt and keeps talking about a person. 1. Is drug user. 2. Slept with raped an underage kid, which makes her a pedophile. 3. Robbed and nearly killed your friend. 4. Takes advantage of your grandparents. If she calls you and starts talking about your aunt, interrupt her with a firm no. First of all, I am so sorry about your husband. What a horrible thing to happen. Secondly, is your grandma still entirely there? Because this obsession sounds downright bizarre. Who asks a grieving widow of only 2 months to sell them her car? You mentioned in another comment that your grandpa seems to be more reasonable, or at least more aware of their behavior. Can you get him to help point out to your grandma how incredibly painful her behavior is to you? Or else your dad, but considering his justified reaction to their declining to help you out financially, that might not be the best option. Another option may be to write them a letter. Perhaps with the help of your therapist, explain how you would still like to spend time with your grandparents, but you just don't have the emotional bandwidth to deal with anything but your very recent loss. You can either send the letter or read it out to her. Whatever feels more comfortable. And if she doesn't take it well, I'd seriously reconsidering seeing her, at least in the next few months. Good luck, and much strength. Grandma, I know aunt is a big concern for you, but I'm at the point I just can't be involved anymore. It's starting to feel like all you talk about is aunt this and aunt that, and I'm tired. I'm not going to tell you what to do about her situation, but I just can't listen to you vent about and enable her anymore. I'm happy to refer you to a therapist if you need someone to talk to about her. Al-Anon meetings are also there for you. The fact is, I'm grieving, I'm scared, and I'm lost. I just lost my husband and I need to focus on my health. I love having you around, but if you can't stop talking about Aunt, I'm going to need to take some space. It's just not productive or healthy for me to have those kinds of conversations with you anymore. If she asks why, be honest, but don't debate it. Just state your list of reasons like you did here and tell her she's free to feel differently, but you're entitled to your opinion of her. You refuse to be an enabler to her behavior, which includes not talking about her all the time, as that's not where you want to put your energy. If she starts arguing, simply say, I've said my piece. I'm not here to argue with you. I'm going to go now. Please respect my new boundaries on our future visits. And then immediately leave and give her some space. And when she starts inevitably talking about Anne again, cut her off and remind you of the boundary you set. Grandma, I hear that's stressful for you, but Anne is just not a conversation topic I'm willing to have with you anymore. Please change the subject. If she gets upset or refuses, leave or ask her to leave. Rinse and repeat until she gets it. You need some space from your grandparents. They're way too wrapped up in their own self-made drama to actually provide the appropriate care and support you need. You can't make them pull their heads out of their assess. You can't make them provide the support you need. You can and should set a boundary that you don't want to talk about your Anne right now. You're dealing with your husband's death and your entire life falling apart. You don't have space for her drama right now. It could be that your grandparents are having some issues with their memory and thus keep circling back to your aunt, but honestly, that's not really your problem right now. Work on expecting less from them. Work on having some physical and emotional space from them. Maybe find some other widows to bond with and support outside of your family. I understand that your grandma is one of your best friends, and that you are grieving the recent loss of your husband. I am so sorry, but I think you need to consider that your grandmother may not be a safe person for you right now. I mean, your aunt sexually assaulted a minor in her care, and your grandparents bought her a house to reward her, and supplied her with 7 cars worth of drug money. And now, whilst you're grieving the recent death of your husband, your grandma, one of your best friends, is asking you to sell your vehicle so she can give your aunt more drug money. I'm sure that most of the time, you could handle your aunt being the toxic apple in your grandparents' eye, though it seriously raises a lot of questions about their values and morals. But right now, you need the attention. You need the care and support and love and resources. And your grandparents still think the world revolves around your aunt. Right when you need their love and support the most, they are instead looking at what they can take from you. Why do you want to spend time with your grandparents when they are showing you so little compassion? What can be gained from time with them at this time? I know that at this point in time, you want to have as many people in your life to support you and help you through this. But I think your grandparents would take more from you than they'd give. I think now is a great time for you to take some distance from them. Maybe even tell them why. I'm so sorry for your loss. You've gotten great advice here to basically let your grandmother know that you are grieving and no longer will be available for discussions regarding your aunt. It must be so frustrating listening to her vent about behavior she is enabling to happen. As for finances, that sucks, but as you said, it's their money. If your grandmother won't stop discussing your aunt, ask her to leave every time if at your house and just walk out the door if you are at her house. Again, I'm so sorry for your loss. I think you need to be very clear with your grandma and defend your boundaries. You can tell her something like, I don't approve of my aunt's lifestyle and no longer want to talk about her. I respect that you have different viewpoints than mine, so it's best that we no longer talk about this subject. Then anytime she starts down that path, interrupt and make it clear you don't want to talk about that subject. If she persists, you will have to let her know you can no longer see her if she won't respect your boundaries. Replace grandparents with friend. Your friend came over and started talking about their kid doing things with drugs and oh poor me. My kid is so bad but she's good, I swear, give me your money. If you would not put up with your friend disrespecting you and your late husband, then you do not doing because family. They are being so absolutely rude and disrespectful to you. This is like they are spitting on your husband's grave. You should not put up with this. Your aunt, you know, she can make her poor decisions, but they are completely enabling her, so there's no sympathy. But they are trying to push you into their bad decisions. If they want her to be better, then they should have raised her better. This is not your fault to fix. Why are you not mad? They are putting her above everyone else and that should not be okay. You are in pain and they are seeing you as an extra meal ticket for your aunt. They know what they're doing. They're in their 60s. They know. I'm so mad for you. Regardless, cross-post this tar. Just no family because they can help a bit more. Honesty is the best policy. Right. So be as honest and of course gentle as possible, because the sooner grandma comes to terms with the addiction, the sooner she can actually help her child versus protect her. I'm an addict in recovery. Your grandparents are codependent, and because of that, they are enablers, which means that they are addicts in themselves, because the way for a codependent to get their fix is to enable the addict in their life. And now, they want to entangle you in their web. Print this post, and take it to your therapist and look up your local Al-Anon meeting schedule. And go. No excuses. Go. Many people here have offered good advice on setting firm boundaries with the grandparents. I would take it a step further. owing to my history, and tell them that hearing anything regarding the aunt means instant no contact, and that you won't be buying into the bullshit by selling the car. Aunt and grandparents will have to prove beyond that they are both sober from each other and their addictions, and that is that they will not listen to the parts about your aunt being a predator, which she is, because enmeshment and addiction, they are too far gone at this point. Your grandmother is too enmeshed with your aunt and her addictions to provide any sort of anything to you. You lay down the boundaries and let her go if it comes to that. Please find a meeting. Just flat out tell her that the time you just spend together should not be all about your aunt. That's what I had to do. My aunt is a total loser. She has make bad choices every chance she gets. He would have bankrupted my grandma if my mom didn't bail her out every month. She has been married 4 times, kids with each man. But my grandma thinks she is amazing because one of her kids is basically brain dead. Sad thing, it was my aunt's fault. My cousin crashed his dirt bike, broke his leg. He was taken to the local hospital. It's common knowledge that the hospital is awful. I can name 3 family members that almost died from some kind of malpractice. It's so bad. When my dad sliced his leg open on some farm equipment, we called the vet to stitch him up. The hospital did not have the equipment to set my cousin's leg. It would have to be drove in from 5 hours away. Doctor and hospital staff recommended my cousin be flown to the closest hospital that could handle the broken femur. She decided to stay at the crappy hospital because some of the folks from her swinger club worked in the cafeteria. We all begged her to fly him out of there. Long story short, bone marrow and a waxy coating traveled to my cousin's brain. He is now a brain-dead vegetable. My grandma was selling a piece of property with 2 homes at that same time. My aunt used her son's accident to guilt my grandma into giving her the property. My grandma even refinanced her current home to build an in-house care suite for my cousin. My aunt ignores her other 3 kids. She used my cousin to manipulate grandma every chance she gets. Anytime someone else might be the center of attention, my cousin either is about to die or wake up. My grandma decided not to come to the birth of my second child because my cousin was waking up and talking lie. Same thing with my sister's graduation, my mom and dad's 35th year wedding anniversary. The list goes on and on. At the beginning of this year, my grandma was diagnosed with lung cancer. My husband and I stepped up to take care of her. All she ever talked about was my aunt and cousin. I flat out told her I was not gonna talk about them anymore. And if she keep bringing her up, I'm gonna tell her what I really think of my aunt. Grandma doesn't bring her up anymore. I think your grandmother needs some tough love. What you said about what would happen to your car if it was given to your aunt is exactly what you should have said to your grandmother. To be blunt, your aunt is a pedophile junkie and your grandparents are showing you and your father disrespect whenever they go on about her. Please accept my honest condolences. I don't know what to write. I can't stop crying after reading your story. I'm so terribly sorry. You don't deserve such harsh reality. You are so young. I hope you will get through all of this. Regarding your grandparents, are they maybe willing to speak to a therapist? They are delusional, but maybe they will listen to someone objective outside the family. I would suggest turning your aunt to the police if you have any evidence, but I guess it would hurt your grandparents very much. Stay strong and think about yourself first. I know it doesn't mean much, but your story really moved me so much. I will pray for you tonight to find peace and happiness again. Heart. I genuinely think you might need some time away from your grandma in order to heal. It would never feel the same and you might feel numb forever. But your grandma is definitely making it worse. You should try to calmly tell your grandma about your aunt. Tell her that you have something serious to talk to her about. You love her and you know she loves your aunt. but you cannot bear to listen about anything to do with your aunt anymore. You understand that she will always choose to side your aunt, but you do not wish to be involved with your aunt or hear anything about her any longer. Talk to her calmly, even if she flares up. You might be emotional, but try not to let it show, so that she does not think you're just being immature, or that you are irrational due to the loss of your husband, or something. You really do not wish to hear about her anymore. If she wants to meet you, you are happy for it, but not if it has something to do with your aunt. I'm so sorry. I cannot imagine the pain you're enduring right now. I wish I could just hug you. You said you have a therapist, but are you taking any medications for your depression or speaking to a psychiatrist? My dad recently died in March, and I didn't feel better until I was prescribed something for my anxiety, depression, and PTSD. Your grandmother is a raging narcissist, and at her age she's not going to change, ever, for any reason. Never. Really never. Your grandmother picked your aunt as the golden child, and your father as the scapegoat. That will never change, ever, under any circumstances. Your grandmother's brain is wired differently, which is why she's a narcissist, and why she can't change, ever. Her behavior has nothing to do with your father, or anything he did or didn't do, and nothing to do with you, or anything you did or didn't do. Her behavior is solely driven by how her brain is wired. Your grandmother, as a raging narcissist, she will never be the person who will listen and provide support. She sees your aunt as an extension of herself, which is why everything is about your aunt. You don't have many options. If her behavior bothers you, then the best thing would be to avoid her.
If you enjoyed this video, please check out our playlists full of similar content. Epicaricast is like doom scrolling for your ears. Please like, share, and subscribe.